Welcome to Huddle Up with Matias Bueno. Today marks a very special anniversary of the show. We are now at episode 100. And so, in honor of that amazing achievement, we've brought on one of the greatest Canadian podcasting legends that has ever graced the world of sports, the co-host of the No Dunks podcast, Tas Melas. Tas, welcome to the show. It's a great pleasure to have you on, and I'm excited to talk some hoops with you.
Matias, congratulations. We celebrated 100 a long time ago. I remember that day, and it was a cool accomplishment. So congrats. It is sincerely a lot of work, and keep on going, man.
Someone like yourself, who for any Canadian sports fan would remember way back in the day, the Basketball Jones, in the days of the Score, before the Score, even a podcast that's been running in terms of the longevity, maybe not the exact same name, for 16 years and counting now. And it's taken you and your team on one of the wildest rides that anyone could even imagine in terms of being a sports fan to now being, I'm not sure if you would call it an authority figure, but someone that has a little more weight in the words they say when they talk about basketball and when they bring to life entertainment surrounding the NBA. It's been a difficult journey in terms of the things that you guys have had to navigate, the life choices you've been forced to make. How do you reflect currently on all that you've achieved with your podcast now that you're situated down in the southeastern United States, when back in the day you guys just started in an apartment here in downtown Toronto?
Well, yes, it's been a ride. I appreciate how you're careful with your words and whether or not we're authority figures or not. Really, yeah, we definitely started as fans and passionate about sports, and came out of college wanting to just do something we wanted to do. I had a gig at TSN at the time when we started. My co-host Skeets was doing physician recruiting. Our producer JD was doing post-production. And so we had just this a yearning to do something else, to do something together, do something creative. And, you said difficult life decisions for sure. Some upheavals, I think it was 14 people at the time, including all our family members, down to Georgia in 2013 after that long ride. But I guess I was in a group with like-minded guys that didn't even think twice when we got the call to move down to Atlanta. So it was a no-brainer. I guess, three of us at the beginning just started with, kind of our heads down, just working, not really knowing where the big picture was taking us, but all knowing that we would do anything for the show. And at this point, I'm looking back, it's a heck of a lot of work, a heck of a lot of, again, not knowing where the hell we were going with it, but also just knowing that the three of us would do anything for each other, including, wake up at 5:30 a.m. to record at 6 every morning for a while, then go to our day jobs and that kind of thing. And so looking back, we got lucky in terms of where podcasting was when we started. We started in 2006. And because we started then, when podcasts obviously weren't as common as they are, we made a decent mark for ourselves right out of the gate, because there just weren't as many podcasts. So when people started looking for podcasts, we were there. And it also helped us gain reps, as I'm sure it's helped you, sort of on a non-conventional medium, where we were just yapping away as friends do, making tons of mistakes and just being who we were. And that's sort of snowballed into what the show has become. The NBA TV hired us as fans of the game who aren't conventional broadcasters. And we had already had like 7 years of real reps of doing it independently, then at the Score. And then NBA TV, it was so timely in that they wanted voices of fans, and they knew that was where the broadcasting / media game was going. And somebody at the NBA TV, a couple of people had the foresight, Scooter and Christine specifically at NBA TV had the foresight to say, this is a perfect meshing of these guys who've been doing it for a long time and this industry and where it's going. So, it's a lot of it is luck, got to be honest, just the timeliness of it and where we were going. And now, whether or not we're authority figures or not, people listen to us as fans of the game, as people who absolutely love the game. And yeah, it's totally genuine coming from where we were. I like the Toronto Raptors, so that means I really love the game of basketball. I love being hurt watching a team as bad as the Raps for so long during the early 2000s, and yeah, we all were fans of the game, except our producer, who is kind of a fan of the game, but and that also benefited us in that he sees things differently. So yeah, a long-winded way to say I had no idea where this ride was taking us when we started. No idea. And I don't think JD, our producer, or Skeets did. But yeah, we just every step of the way, we just tried to make the show better, make the show different. And yeah, here we are in Georgia. Yeah, like 16 years later.
When you first graduated from college, you went to Ryerson and took radio and television arts before the sport media program existed. And when looking back, you mentioned how there was timeliness, getting lucky, as well as the fact that podcasting wasn't even really big then. And it's something that people often hear now as the industry continues to evolve, the saying that the job that you will work probably doesn't even exist right now. And it's going to come up as the years go on, and you'll discover it along the path in the correct way. But when you graduated, you might not have had the foresight to know the podcast was going to take you guys all the way down to Atlanta. So when you first were a new grad, what was your initial goal in the industry? Because you said that you were working at TSN. Was it something that you just wanted to climb the ladder with, or did you have other ideas in mind that you hadn't necessarily reached just yet?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yes, I spent 4 years at Ryerson, basically saying yes to every job and internship and trying out different things. And I was lucky to be at CBC at Hockey Night in Canada, working craft services for a while. And I was just saying yes to things and trying different things. And did I have an end goal? No, I definitely like talking for a living. I love sports. I love the sound of my own voice. I definitely had the affirmation as a kid that I had a good, quote unquote, speaking voice, and people, gave me that. So as I went into Ryerson and got a job at TSN, did I want to be on air? Part of me, for sure. I didn't really have an end goal, but I definitely wanted to talk about sports and be around sports. So I just thought that was a stepping stone without, again, a real definitive end job. I just kept going and, was going as the jobs were taking me there. And that's what happened in 2006 when, frankly, Skeets and I, who were the hosts at the time before, Trey Lee, and Matty O joined back. We didn't even know what a podcast was in 2006. So sincerely, we had no idea. Our producer JD came to us and said, listen, there's this medium where you guys can just, talk about whatever. And initially we were thinking about talking about all sports, just because we thought it would have a wider reach than just basketball, but we were far more passionate about basketball. So after looking into what a podcast was, we just decided to go the route of basketball. And I bring that up because you bring up a good point. Who the hell knows where this media landscape is going? We have no idea what position or what jobs we're going to have in 5-10 years, myself included. And so we just excelled at what we had in front of us then. And our future employers were able to see that we were, just really going at every aspect, every branch of that podcasting sphere, which was social media and self promotion and blogging and everything, becoming a 5-tool player, that type of thing. And then our position, we had to pivot at some point. We went the television route, which was amazing, which the conventional route, and now we're all the way back into podcasting, specifically podcasting for the last couple of years. So I think we just jumped head in, and I just jumped head into on as full-time podcasters, TV people at the Score. So did I have an end goal? No. I just was trying to excel and trying to figure it out, and yeah, obviously it worked out pretty well. I've never really had I guess end goals or whatever it was. I've just always been a hard worker that just kept going, and our vision of everything is always just to make the show better, make the show bigger, and I think that's the most important thing, and that's what helped us get visibility to our future employers, both at the Score and at NBA TV, and now at the Athletic.
And the Score was an absolute gold mine, a haven for many original ideas that carried the weight of the Canadian sports media industry on television. When you look at Tim and Sid, that became Tim and Friends, and then the Basketball Jones. And when you look at court surfing and what, Cabbie in the Streets, the list goes on. There's so many segments that were a part of that channel. And I remember when it finally merged with Sportsnet, I felt very sad because it lost a part of that uniqueness. It still exists as an app, and it's done very well in the world of betting, which again is another element of an uncertain territory or the wilderness of the industry, you could say, that people are just starting to navigate, like podcasting back then. But that must have been like, the Score was a scene. It was just an absolutely incredible time. And I remember when my brothers and I would watch, and we enjoyed all the different shows. And I remember actually the very first time that we caught the attention of the Basketball Jones was when you guys did the segments, the little skits about the Raptors and other NBA things. And I just remember the vision in my head of hearing, "Congratulations, Hito, you're going to Phoenix," ball, and seeing you wear the jersey. And I remember saying to my brother, I was like, man, I don't know if that's just a coincidence that guy kind of looks like Hito Turkoglu, the better looking version, mind you. But that was really, really cool. I didn't know who came up with that idea, but I want to see more of this. And then it just continued to snowball from there. What a great time the Score was. Can you talk a bit about how much fun that was for you guys?
Yeah, it was the benefit of being, sort of a small fish in a big pond. The Score was just trying things because TSN obviously had this established brand, Sportsnet, the same thing. And they were sort of more conventional, while the Score was, the up and comer and just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall. And, guys like us, like Cabbie, who was, kicking ass back then and doing his thing. And same goes for Tim and Sid and all the personalities. Yeah, it was, there was just a lot of creativity going on there for sure. And court cuts and court surfing, which is also kind of come back around now to NBA TV and the NBA app. Those were definitely innovative ideas back then, and they're still being used. So the stuff that was thrown at the wall like that, they've stuck around. And Cabbie's style, for instance, his interview style, that still sticks around, and just also just the personalities as well. I mentioned the way we were sort of able to just wing it for a while. We were these non-broadcaster types at the Basketball Jones doing the podcast back then. Sid, who's an incredible personality, and Tim, same thing. They were very, very professional and able to conduct interviews, but they're also able to just, be themselves and be goofs like we all are in the sports industry at times, and yeah, hence me dressing up like Hito Turkoglu. And I remember back when I worked at TSN, this was, 06, 07, 08, 09, even before the Hito became a Toronto Raptor. Yeah, people would look, I remember one editor showed me the newspaper when the Raptors signed him and said, is that you? It wasn't really a bit that we had done at that point, but yeah, he got to Toronto. He missed the practice, and then he missed the game. And yeah, I guess he was sick and didn't go to the practice. And the word was on the street was that he hung out on Bloor Street that night and that he had a few too many drinks. And so hence the dancing Hito. I mean, we took a camera to the street, pretended that he was a party animal. And on the streets of Toronto, on King and Peter down there. And we were just I was dancing around pretending I was him just because I look like him. And then, yeah, it snowballed from there. And eventually, after doing 3 different videos, one including Big Baby Davis of the Orlando Magic, his teammate at the time, where, you know, we got him to pretend that he was dancing with Hito Turkoglu. Eventually, Hito also saw it and he thought it was hilarious. And so, yeah, again, that's the benefit of being at a smaller network that isn't established, and not just smaller network, but I mean, I think this can also translate to anyone listening out there who isn't, in an established position. Just try stuff, frankly, try stuff. And if it fails, who cares? Because I'm sure a lot of stuff at the Score that both probably shouldn't have made it to air because it wasn't good, but also didn't make it to air because it wasn't good. So yeah, lesson learned that, we definitely took off, and with stuff like that, with Leica Bosch was probably our biggest thing, where Chris Bosch also did see it, and he enjoyed it. And so, yeah, a lot of different things. And yeah, the Score was a really fun place to work, for sure. A lot of people digging in and yeah, having fun, but also, yeah, it was also a very professional network. And that's where NBA TV noticed us, because the Score was airing NBA rights, NBA games. And so we were producing some stuff there with NBA rights, and NBA TV definitely noticed us there, as well as our podcast we were doing. And so that's why they were able to make the commitment to, yes, at the time, 6 guys and their families, to bring them all down to Georgia, because they knew we were both professional and also goofs. And yeah, they were able to give us the keys to an hour on NBA TV every day for a while, and then it became half an hour for 6 years. So the Score was was a great stepping stone for everybody. And I hear what you're saying with you and your bros, and how you guys were a little, it was a little gut punched when the TV station went away, and it didn't. Yeah, it had a different, like up and comer type vibe, like that other stations just couldn't have. And even here in the US, like, people know the Score app, as you mentioned, but they didn't really experience the Score TV station. And there isn't really a good comp in the US that it's just the same thing. It was just a very unique scenario in Canada, the 3rd biggest sports TV station. And just trying stuff, and some weird stuff. And Cabby, because he was so amazing, came down to the US, and same with Jay and Dan, and their journey. So yeah, a lot of great personalities in Canada were able to get some visibility and able to take another step. But it was a sad day when the TV station went away, for sure. It was sad, but the stuff lives on. All the people I mentioned in court cuts and court surfing. It was obviously a great idea, because they exist like 15 years later.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned other names. Jay and Dan. Cabby went down to the US. Renee Paquette went down to the US, came back. Like, there's so many people that succeeded from there. I think if you pulled up the whole Rolodex, you'd be talking for days. With having lived in the US now for a little bit of time, how would you compare the experience from a job perspective to when you lived in Canada? Do you like it more, less, equal? There's different things. What's your experience been like?
The experience of the job world. I think there's, the market's just bigger here, frankly. I mean, that's obviously why so many people come down here. There are just more opportunities. So I would say that's the biggest difference, really. I loved working at TSN and the Score, and really that's the biggest difference, is that there are so many different avenues, and the game has changed so much, because I'm talking, there's more opportunities, but there's also just so many more jobs because of the expansion of sports on the internet. I mean, I was, blogging and editing and sort of doing editorial work on the side while I was at TSN. And then after I quit TSN. So there was live blogging and stuff, but now that's expanded, like blew up, I don't know, tenfold. So there's just more jobs. But I guess in terms of where I worked and my experience, I think the biggest difference with TH is just more jobs, and more places to go, and I mean, there's just so many more big markets in the US. I'm in Atlanta, but there are obviously the magnets of New York and LA and others. So there's just more opportunity, I would say, if you're able to get the visa and not get kicked out of the country. I mean, that's a big a big hurdle for sure. A couple of our guys, even in 2019, after we had been down here for 6 years, had to spend 4 weeks in Canada because their visas weren't renewed. There's always hurdles having to cross the border and do that kind of thing. But if the opportunity strikes, there's definitely jobs to be had for sure. There's just more of them. But again, the internet, changes things as well. And so I would have been able to, like, let's say this was right now, it was the same landscape existed in 2006 or 2007. I have a lot more opportunity as everybody you're with has online. There's just so many more jobs online as well.
Are there any things you miss about living in Canada, or it's just nice to visit once in a while?
Of course, there's tons of things I miss. It's the simple stuff like family and friends. So the people is the biggest thing. And it's where I grew up. I spent the first 30 years of my life. So yes, the relationships and I mean, my loved ones really is the biggest thing. And Canadian humor, Canadian awkwardness and weirdness, and the ability to be a smaller country that compared to the US, obviously, that there's a uniqueness to it that doesn't exist in Canada, the quirkiness to it. And that's, I mean, the big thing is the human beings, the people I miss for sure. And lots of small stuff in the city of Toronto, specifically where I was, and Mississauga, where I grew up. Definitely you bring back some tingles, make some tingles in my body and some goosebumps when you say that, Matthias. Yeah, for sure. I definitely missed it, but I'm coming back soon. I can't wait. And it's something that will never leave me. And who knows what the future holds.
Speaking of tingles in your body, I just connected the dots with thinking now, if you were graduating from university in the mid 2000s, and as someone with a name, Tas Melas, I wonder what amazing event transpired at the matrix of the peak fandom within your adulthood and your Greek heritage. As a Portuguese person, this literally sends 1,000 spears through my soul every time I talk about it. Not as much anymore as it did before 2016, if you know what I mean. Yeah. What was it like watching Greece win the Euro? Because I mean, I don't like talking about this personally, or I mean, reflecting on it, because I mean, when I first found out about it as a kid, it had already happened, thankfully, so I didn't get to witness it. But I want to let you have your moment and describe to me what that was like, because I know what it's like when you're that 20-year-old, you finally get to see your team win it all, especially when no one expected Greece to win. No. Take me through the emotional ride that was Euro 2004.
Well, it's just freaking unbelievable, really. Leading up to it, the group play, and then the quarters, that was like being in the World Cup final or being in the Euro final then. Like, I thought the quarters were it. It just felt like, wow, this is amazing. It was a particular type of team that was all defense, and then found a way to put it in the back of the net a couple times. And so when the goals happened, it was just euphoria, man. It was just it really was unbelievable. And so it's one of those, like, it's just one of those miracles in sports. And so it was like a lightning in a bottle. Doesn't seem like that could ever happen again. It was just too much. I remember being, this was 04. I was in college at the time. I remember being in Wasaga for the quarterfinals and not believing what I was watching, and then the semis, and then the final with Haristes. Like, it just didn't seem real. And I had Portuguese friends that were, as you said, brokenhearted. So it hurt, but it also was great, to really stick it to the very proud Portuguese fans that I knew. You know how it is. And so you just brought up Sid Seixeiro. It hurt a guy like that for sure. But it was one of those things, because unlike Raptors fandom, where we had some hope with Vince, and then things went awry for several years. That was just unbelievable, that Greece triumph. It just came out of nowhere. And so that was it was wild. And then since then they just get beat down real bad. So it was just this one blip that just came out of nowhere. So the word is unbelievable. It's still it's just one of those sports moments that'll never leave me. And it's I guess it's better than being a Portuguese soccer fan, because I don't have any hope that Greece is really going to do anything. Like, you guys actually have hope. You there's every year you get hurt. I'm just, I'm done.
That's an interesting way to put it. I remember talking about those with James Sharman, another legend of the score, and we were making a comparison between, I think it was the Leafs being like the Dallas Cowboys or like Arsenal. It's like, it was between the Maple Leafs being like England. You always have hope, and you always feel like it's just around the corner, and then you get so close and then you're crushed. But then the cycle of hope continues and repeats itself. And whether it's you're a sucker for punishment, or whether it's just the joy of the ride, when you're cheering for teams that are the small minnows, or I guess I wouldn't say Greece is a small minnow as much as it was back in the day, now that they at least have had some level of success under their belt, but with no expectations, I think it makes it a lot easier when the losing happens, because you're like, oh, well, this is what we expected. And even for Raptors fans, pro sports in North America is different, because you're there every year. You don't get relegated. You don't have to qualify. You just have to exist and hope that you go on a run, make the playoffs, and anything can happen. Whereas Greece, it's like they were literally one of the lowest, the teams that had the lowest odds of winning, maybe besides Latvia in 2004, I think it was. And God knows what happened, but the park the bus counterattack worked, and Italy were swinging on air and big mad because their tactics were exploited by one small country in Southeast Europe that ended up winning more Euros, or as many Euros now in the last 50 years as Italy have won. So I guess the little expectations and great joy makes for a great combination, rather than having hope every year and being crushed.
Totally. And like a true Portuguese, you get one Italian dig in there to point out that they have as many Euros as the Greeks. Very funny.
I mean, I've never even really got a lot of the Italian Portuguese comps for most of my life, until maybe the last 5-6 years. But there's so many endless topics in soccer that I love, really getting into heated debates about. And one of my closest friends is a big Barca fan and a huge Messi fan. And I'd always joke with him saying, oh, one day Sid Seixeiro is going to come on the pod and we're going to slander Messi, and you're going to be screaming and you're going to be so angry, because when Sid had the whole Messi's a fraud compared to Ronaldo, that was just hilarious television. I absolutely enjoyed watching every second of that. Not that I necessarily believe it, but just seeing the absolute outrage of everyone across the pond saying, who's this wanker? And he's not even a legitimate football voice, blah, blah, blah. It's just so funny, because it's like, you're taking us way too seriously, man. They're both amazing, but he's just an entertainer, and you just got to leave it at that.
Yeah. Sid, brilliant at knowing what he's doing and stirring the pot. Of course, you got to do it. So yeah, we don't do that a ton on No Dunks, and I think that's helped our I don't know, our legitimacy as basketball voices. We're not hot take artists, but Sid's allowed to do that because he's, a tried and true Portuguese fan. I mean, that's who he is. So you're allowed to say that. I mean, does he believe it? No, but yeah, he can pull it out every once in a while if that's where you come from. Yeah. So yeah, Sid is glorious television still.
I want to ask you your opinion on, speaking of hot take artists. This is something I've always been really confused about. As someone that's now been down in the US and is closer to the mecca of the Nick Wrights and the Skip Baylesses and the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, what is it about that type of sports talk that has become so popularized? I know people will continuously make fun of the hot takes, and or Max Kellerman saying, I want Iguodala, fate of the universe on the line, et cetera, et cetera. How do you observe those kinds of shows and opinions from your perspective, considering you're a person that really has been a fan for most of his life? And again, you mentioned like not being a hot take artist on No Dunks, but these people just full-fledged dive headfirst into the deep end of hot takes. Do you really think that there's a valuable place for that in sports TV, or do you think that it's a little bit ridiculous and that if they were more calculated in what they did, then it would get a lot more respect from fans?
Yeah, that's a good question. The thing is, it's all about clicks. Really, it's all about finding the proper term of the day. Like, it's LeBron versus Jordan in the basketball world comes up every week in certain spheres of the basketball talk world. And why? Because it gets hit. So, there's some people that, some of the guys you mentioned that are really great and really insightful at breaking down the game, but also, yeah, they venture into that sphere of what the hell are you talking about, man? So, part of it is if you talk for a living every day, sometimes it's kind of fun to, go that direction, because if you talk about specifically like one sport every day, sometimes, some of these games just don't feel like they have all that much importance. And so, yeah, it's fun to go to these, dumb arguments that really have no answer, and that a lot of people will have themselves in a bar. And that's why people, glob onto them, because they're stuff that people talk about all the time, really. And if they're not professional broadcasters or whatever. So yeah, it's the sphere is so much bigger, over the last decade, as Twitter has gotten so much bigger. There's so much room for both sides of it. There's room for these dumb conversations, frankly, about whatever it is, MJ versus LeBron, or it was MJ versus Kobe, or whatever, that kind of thing, hot take artist type things, and there's still room for real talk about what's happening in the leagues and all that. And it's all about who you follow and who you're a fan of, and what type of stuff you like. It's unfortunate that a lot of it is sensational, but there's you really have to curate your feed, and figure out what you like and what you don't like. So yes, it's painful for me at times, and sometimes people go for it with some weird hot takes, but it's those people will probably always be more popular than our show, because of it's got great reach, it's got great tentacles, it creates headlines and gets up there in searches and all that, but not really for me. It's all what you like.
That's a fair way to look at it from
the
perspective.
It's a definitely a level-headed, instead of I could rant about it and hate it, but it's like it takes the life out of me. Like, we know what type of person does that kind of stuff and what type of show they're on. You mentioned like Nick Wright. Nick Wright knows basketball, and he knows, and he's comfortable debating, whether it's MJ to LeBron, or Eric Gordon versus Tyler Hero, or that kind of thing, like real real stuff that's happening right now. The guy is very talented. And he knows his stuff. He knows the game. He knows, but yesterday he started talking about Nikola Jokic not being a great player because he had a bad All-Star game. What? What are you talking about? Yeah, it's all what buttons people want to press at times. And sometimes it's the employer and advising them to go in a certain direction. I'm sure, the producers of that show and what will get headlines and all that. So yeah, you're opening up a vault here, Matish. Like, you make me want to, you're opening the floodgates, make me want to get upset about it. But it's something that's like, it's likely never to go away. But the more people press with intelligent conversation with, your real, like your Charmans and people who know the games and all that, that's, as long as those voices are out there as well, those are an option to choose from rather than choosing the other direction, which get headlines and all of that.
Well, in a more coherent and pointed direction of intelligent conversation, as someone who's very, very big into NBA basketball and talking about debates, the AllStar Weekend has just passed and the break is going to end finally on Thursday. But as a fan of sports, people look at All-Star games, weekends as sometimes ridiculous. Some events are fun, but particularly with the NBA, with what the slam dunk contest has been like and the All-Star game changing its format, if you were to replace one of the two with your own event or to tweak it in some sort of way, which one would you alter, the dunk contest or the All-Star game, and why?
Well, the All-Star game has been tinkered with the last few years, and it's gotten a lot better. The actual game itself is, it's just highlight after highlight, and less like a regular season game, even, or obviously a playoff game. But they're able to put an element, basically make each quarter a game in and of itself, and then have a target score and elam ending at the end, so the game can be ended on a game-winning shot, because it's a number that they're trying to get to. So it's been entertaining. LeBron hit a game winner, and it's improved rather than just watching 4 quarters of basketball. That's who really cares, and so it's kind of, that was an easy way to tune out. So it's improved. They have a draft before it, as they do in the NHL. I still think they do. That really helped. They're televising the draft, so they're allowing the personalities to come out of the captains, and there's this guy gets picked last, that type of thing. James Harden got picked last. That's fun. I think that part's fun. The game is fun. The Saturday night festivities, yeah, it's always a big swing, and sometimes it's a big whiff, and sometimes it's jacked out of the park. So what would I change? I think, we've had a long conversation about this on No Dunks on over the weekend, and what we came out with as far as things that we would change. My man Trey was, adamant about sort of mandating, sort of requiring players to participate in a slam dunk contest their first couple years in the league, so they can't say no to the league, that it's part of the contract, part of the CBA, even that just the good players will enter the slam dunk contest. So I don't think I would change anything in terms of what's happening on Saturday night. There's really 3 events. There's a slam dunk contest, there's 3-point shootout, which should never change really, and there's the skills contest, which really should be more about the half court shot. That's getting into the weeds, but that's what it should be. It should be about the half court shot. And then it's the same good dunk contest, and the All-Star game is what the weekend really comes down to. And the All-Star game is improved, but the slam dunk contest just needs bigger names. And unfortunately, over the past 5-6 years, there's been a Donovan Mitchell in there. Damian Lillard participated, but there hasn't been a lot of star power. So I think how you would change it is making it part of the negotiations between the players union and the league, and saying, hey, if you're going to be an all-star, you have to be a part of Saturday night, or frankly, that you have to participate in one of those in a Saturday night event, the first couple of years of your career. And it doesn't, it gets the old guys off the hook. And the young guys are willing to do it. So it's almost happening now, but some of the big names just haven't gone in it. So really, it's like the dunk contest. Yeah, some people don't care for it, but if a big name was in it and threw down a cool dunk, yeah, it doesn't have to be something that's never been seen before. It just has to be a cool dunk, and it's a big name player, and everybody will love it. And that's that. I think that's really the change, is making it mandatory.
That's a good point, because you look at Kobe Bryant, what he did when he was 18. Yeah, that was very, very early on in his career. Would he have done that later on when he was in his late 20s, early 30s? Probably not. And now LeBron is too concerned with, and not saying this is a bad thing, but making sure his body is preserved. Why would he put himself at risk or try to do anything flashy? For what? Like, what does he have to prove in a slam dunk contest? Nothing. Like, his nickname is literally the King, so I don't think he has anything to worry about there.
Well, yeah, he actually was at an AllStar Weekend, earlier in his career, and it was during the dunk contest. It was like year 5, 6, 7 in his career. I think it was 09 or so. I think it was Dwight Howard and Nate Robinson in the dunk contest, and
2009,
he would, yeah, okay. So he was sitting sideline, and he was asked, "Hey, are you going to be in the dunk contest?" He said, "Yeah, next year," and he never did it. But even that's too late. Like, that's, if that was the year, that was year 6 of his career. And in basketball, the basketball world, they're just over it by that point in their career. And the common phrase in basketball is that they have more to lose than they do to gain in the slam dunk contest, because they just don't get the notoriety or whatever. But if you put it on guys that are early in their careers, they have tons to gain, and maybe don't have the same endorsements that they would, in year 6 or 7, like LeBron did. And it's just got to be part of the contract. Like, I don't know if it means having money on the line. It just seems a little, I don't know, like you're tarnishing it in that way. You go, yeah, you mentioned Kobe. Like, it was a lot earlier in the cycle of the slam dunk contest. Even when Kobe did it, I know it was like, it had been around for a while at that point, but the NBA made its mark in the 90s, late 80s, 90s, and then it was still part of the it still wasn't as big, or getting to it just wasn't as taboo, I guess. Like, now it's guys, yeah, they're just too cool for it at times. And so that it hurts the product. And it's really, again, it's not really about the dunks. It's more about the names. And if, this weekend, there wasn't anyone even close to being an all-star in the slam dunk contest. It was 4 guys that, you have to really, there was the number 2 draft pick, Jalen Green, Obi Toppin, Juan Toscano Anderson. And it just didn't, the name power has to be there to some degree, and it just elevates it and makes, like you said, some people care for it, some people don't. And I thought, that unfortunately, like, the most memorable dunk from it is going to be a guy, Cole Anthony, who dunked in Timberlands, who was my pick, but that's it. Like, the dunk wasn't anything noteworthy, but yeah. It's Tim's dunked in boots. That's the moment from Saturday night.
I feel like I saw 3 of the same dunks, to be honest, on Saturday. Like, the same classic run through the middle of the key, try to put your elbow into the rim, or try to jump over someone. Like, I feel like that's been done so many times, and it's just,
yeah,
blah.
It's tough though. It's tough. Like, what are guys going to do? I mean, I know the argument comes up, like, all the dunks have been done. I think like, if you're watching NHL All-Star Weekend, and I tuned in this year, I mean, I tuned in for the names, really. Like, yeah, I just want to see talented guys do what they can do, and whether or not it's been done before. I'll still marvel at a guy, dunking over somebody. I know people are over guys getting dunked over, but I still think it's cool. It's, I'm there for the names. I just think if it is a guy who is an established star, whether or not he, jumps off the top of the backboard and dunks, wow, we've never seen before that. I mean, I don't really think it's that. I think it's just seeing the established guys throw one down. I think that's what it's all about.
100%. If you see a star-studded lineup, even with guys, it doesn't have to be LeBron or anyone like that,
No.
but seeing someone who's like a genuine all-star, or you're excited to see someone that's actually really good, that's more exciting to me. Like Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine are just extreme athletic freaks. Maybe they're not all-stars per se, but what they can accomplish is the once every decade they pull out all the showstoppers. And that's why I think Vince Carter in the slam dunk contest was the perfect mix of a rising star who actually did become great and someone who probably will go to the Hall of Fame, and then just dunks that were, getting Shaq out of his seats and really shocked everyone watching, especially considering up to that point, if fans wouldn't remember, I mean, you'd remember more than my friends would, but the dunk contest was again on that downward dip, and then Carter came and boom, then everyone's mind was blown.
Yeah, and we could be on that downward dip right now, and somebody could come back and bring it back. It could have been John Morant this year to really replicate a Vince. He is on his way up. I mean, I drove from Atlanta to Memphis to watch him play basketball in January because I just wanted to see his meteoric rise. He is a showstopper worth the price of admission, and it would have been incredible if he joined the slam dunk contest. I think we would have seen stuff that people hadn't ever seen before if he joined this year, and we would be talking about it in a totally different way. Like Zach LaVine, I loved him in Minnesota. I loved his athleticism. He's just such a unique player when he was with the Timberwolves, but when he was in the slam dunk contest, he was known as a dunker and not a basketball player. And so he didn't even have the stardom that like a John Morant has or Vince has. But yeah, he changed it because he was such a special athlete along with Aaron Gordon. So sometimes lightning in a bottle with Zach LaVine, or the other way of a Ja or somebody, established players getting out there and doing it. It's just, that's more of a safe way of having assuring a good night on Saturday night. If any guy who's an all-star level or that kind of level just comes out and does a reverse, that's cool. I mean, there's enough people that will be excited for that because he's a star player. So I think the floor is a little bit higher on the slam dunk contest if those guys go in it, and maybe the ceiling might not be higher than these high flyers, these crazy flyers. But yeah, it's trying to find a balance. And the NBA also splits it up into 3 nights. They go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they kind of spread out the events to make it a huge weekend that people go and travel for, and it's a big showstopper. And I think they do it better than any other of the professional leagues. And so sometimes it spreads itself a little bit thin, and I think that's what happened this week on the Saturday night. Really, I mean, it was a long hour of guys throwing through balls through targets for a while, and then the 3-point shootout in the dunk contest. But Friday night and Sunday night were really, really good this year.
It settles. John Morant, got to get him in the dunk contest.
Yeah,
and
DJ be part Khaled, of his contract, man.
And DJ Khaled has to be in the skills challenge as well.
Don't do it, man. Don't do it.
Tas, we're getting towards the end of our time on today's episode, so I want to finish with a quick fire round and have a little more fun before we go.
Sure.
Favorite childhood sports hero?
Oof. Sports hero. I will go with Paul Molitor. He's the man.
Best basketball movie of all time?
Basketball movie of all time. White Men Can't Jump for me.
Favorite food, Greek food to have?
Oof. Tough one, Mathias. I'm gonna go basic. I'm gonna go real basic. Just a big choriatiki salata, a big village salad, as it's called. Just big chunks of vegetables, a big loaf of bread, olive oil, balsamic vinegar with feta cheese and olives, and that's it, man. That's the meal. That would be my last meal. Just salad and bread. Done.
Don't even get to the main. You show up to the restaurant. No, I don't need the main. This is the main for me.
That's all you need.
favorite sports memory from before you were 18 years old?
Before I was 18, uh, yeah, it's split between the Blue Jays World Series. I fell asleep in Game 6 of the '92 World Series, and I woke up in extra innings to see Nixon bunt. Timlin on it, throws to first World Series win. So that was that was a big one. I was a baseball kid growing up, and then Carter over the fence, and the following year it was different because we'd already been to the promised land. But those two for sure.
And the final question is, if you had an opportunity to bring on any NBA player onto No Dunks, who would it be and why?
I think it would be Braun. LeBron has just such a life. That guy, thinking about it right now, because I was, in love with basketball in 2003 when he was drafted, and was such a hype player. It's just such a unique scenario because we're talking about sort of Twitter, tangentially, like everything that is big in the Twitter sphere, like hot takes and all that. I mean, he has had to ride his career through that. So for going from this guy who's on ESPN as a high school player, way too many expectations. The expectations were way too high, to coming in to being asked to talk about real social issues and all that, and not winning at first, and then going to Miami and how that played out, and then breaking through that, going back to Cleveland, and surpassing all expectations. I mean, the guy is going to play with his son, and he is going to play the most seasons in the NBA in the league's history when it's all said and done. He's going to tie Vince Carter for 22 seasons. He's going to be the leading scorer. So it's a lot. It's a lot to talk about with him. So I think he would be great. I'd probably want him, post career, so he can, he talks a lot on the shop. Like he lets loose on the shop, but guys are so much more willing to let loose when it comes to post career, right? So give me a 50-year-old LeBron. And it's wild, man, that he is, he's nearing 40 already and he's still kicking ass.
And second seat goes to Giannis, so you guys can chop it up with basketball and favorite places to go in Greece.
For sure. Yeah, he's a great sport too, and he's going to be in the league a lot longer. But he is, different story for him with the crazy low expectations while he was playing in Greece, and then you talk about jerk media members. There's some jerk media members who, after he was drafted and became a star, wanted a piece of him afterwards when they didn't really follow him when he was playing in the second league in Greece. But that guy, man, has done it all. So he's an amazing dude.
Tas, with that, I want to thank you for having been on today's episode. It was really awesome to talk basketball with you and reminisce on your days of the Score and all that you've accomplished so far in your career. It's been pretty amazing to watch and see another rising star from Canada represent our country on the big stage, i.e. down in Hotlanta, Georgia, the mecca of NBA entertainment on television. I thank you so much for being on today, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Keep going, Matish. Sorry, I kept blabbing and blabbing. The 30-40 minute window got obliterated. And Canada, I love you. I miss you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode with the co-host of the No Dunks podcast, Tas Melas.